Wait at least 2 hours after drinking before taking Addy at bedtime. This risk increases if you take certain prescriptions, OTC or herbal medications, or have liver problems, and can happen when you take Addy without alcohol or other medicines. Do not take if you are allergic to any of Addy's ingredients. Allergic reaction may include hives, itching, or trouble breathing. Sometimes serious sleepiness can occur. Common side effects include dizziness, nausea, tiredness, difficulty falling asleep or staying asleep, and dry mouth. See full PI and medication guide, including boxed warning, at addy.com/PI. Addy.
Visit ADDYI.com to learn more about Addy.
This is Joel
and Matt
from the How to Money podcast, and our listeners know we always talk about the golden rules for optimizing finances or tips for paying off debt. And with Intuit, you have access to money tools to manage, make, and save more money no matter where you are in your financial journey.
That's right. Intuit connects you effortlessly to the money you deserve, whether you are an entrepreneur just trying to grow and market your business with Intuit QuickBooks and MailChimp, or if you're trying to optimize your personal finances with Intuit TurboTax and Credit Karma. Intuit, your way to money.
And we're back. So, if you take nothing else from these episodes, it should be that military officers and intelligence agency employees backing up UFO conspiracies or any other kind of conspiracies doesn't mean those conspiracies are likelier to be true, because all of these people are professional liars, right? Yeah. Not only are they professional liars, but there's nothing that means somebody who reached a moderately high level in the CIA or the Special Forces or the DIA is not just as crazy as that guy you met at a bar who claimed the Martians stole his vas deferens, right? Like, Michael Flynn is out of his goddamn mind. Like, and was legitimately a guy with a lot of, like, who had a very high position in the military establishment. He had a lot to do with intel in specific areas, right? Like, and he's, a nut and a dick and a fascist. To your average American with slightly nerdy inclinations, a lot of this UFO stuff is kind of like background noise. Kids love it, There's like an entertainment, a lot of movies and stuff based around this stuff in the 50s and 60s. And so it's not necessarily like taken super seriously by a ton of people. And it probably started as kind of like a lark for a guy that we're going to be talking a lot about in these episodes, who is, I don't know if hero's the right term, but I'm very sympathetic to him, a fella named Paul Bennewitz. And Paul Bennewitz is the victim of Richard Doty and of the U.S. intelligence establishment during this period. He is an engineer with a master's degree in physics who started his own small business, Thunder Scientific, in 1969. People will say that Paul was a genius with electronics. He is very good at what he does. He moved to New Mexico to be closer to the bleeding edge of the experimental aerospace industry, and he dug a niche for himself there, providing different measurement instruments for NASA and the Air Force. He hit the market at a spectacular time when all of these industries were exploding, and his intention was initially to get a PhD, and he has to shelf that because his company is so successful and it's growing so fast. Thunder Scientific established a lab right outside of Kirtland Air Force Base and had regular dealings with scientists and officers from the newly established Air Force. In the book Project Beta, Greg Bishop writes, "The demands of his business now left little time for friends and socializing, but this did not bother him. Thunder Scientific and his family were all that he needed. What little time he had left was devoted to plowing through a small collection of Wild West novels, his only guilty pleasure." So, pretty nice, harmless guy. He's making, altimeters and shit, for devices for measuring, moisture in the air on planes and stuff, that kind of nerdy stuff, right?
No, totally. This is definitely the CIA is going to ruin this man's life.
Oh, they're going, I think it's more the NSA and Air Force intelligence, but the CIA, there's a number of people involved in fucking with Paul.
Poor guy.
Paul has hobbies. He's a pilot, and he's like an aerobatic pilot, so he likes to do plane stunts and shit. He's very good, starting in the 1970s, he begins paying increasing attention to the UFO movement. He joins the Aerial Phenomenon Research Association, or APRO, which is a civilian UFO research org based out of Tucson. And so that's somewhere, I think sometime in the mid-70s is when he joins APRO. And so he's pretty plugged into all this stuff. A year after Leonard Stringfield writes, he co-writes that book that reignites interest in Roswell and flying saucers in April of 1979, Paul attends a big conference on cattle mutilation, which had just started to become a thing that people were talking about. And this is, when I say a conference on cattle mutilation, this is less kooky than a lot of these events are going to sound because, in part, there's some actual shit being done to cows. So there's some serious people there who actually want to know what the fuck is going on. The event itself is hosted by Republican Senator Harrison Schmitt, a former astronaut who'd walked on the moon. Among the attendees were numerous FBI agents, politicians, local law enforcement officers, scientists from Los Alamos, tribal officials, and of course, New Age psychics wearing robes alongside disheveled ufologists.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. I mean, they have to be there. I mean,
right.
And what a party in the parking lot. Somebody's got to be throwing the after parties. So you have these guys there.
No, and acid, I think, is still legal at this point.
Yeah.
Maybe they banned it by then.
Yeah.
But man, the good Coke is out there. People have Quaaludes. I bet the parties were wild.
Absolutely. Comic-Con eats your heart out. I want to know
Yeah.
what the swag is for the free swag for the cattle mutilation convention. What are they? What's in the go away bag?
Yeah, just lymph nodes.
Yeah.
So a reporter for the New Mexico Independent described the conference as a farce featuring the strangest collection of weirdos ever assembled in New Mexico. And I will tell you right now, that is no longer an accurate statement. I've spent too much time in New Mexico to believe that. A lot of
Yeah.
Mecca for nuts.
That bar is an alien.
One of my favorite states.
Yeah, I love it.
So said weirdos were united by their interest in a real phenomenon. This is not fake. The fact that cattle are being found dead and surgically mutilated is not fake. This is a thing that is happening, right? There's a lot of theories as to why. There's one that is almost certainly the actual truth here that we're going to talk about, but this is a real thing that is happening, and people are rightfully like, what the fuck is going on, right? This starts when a decent number of cattle are found dead and surgically mutilated in the Dulce area, near Dulce, New Mexico, which itself is near the Jicarilla Reservation. One of the first investigators is a state trooper named Gabe Valdez, who's a very, kind of a titan in the ufology field. And again, one of the guys who's more credible, kind of within this community, which is not to say does not believe some stuff that can't be proven, but just is one of the guys who is attempting to actually go about some of this, scientifically. And Gabe, as he's looking, because people, he's getting calls from ranchers, I've got this cow's fucking cut up, man. This is fucking weird. He finds tripod prints near several of the corpses, and he initially theorizes that this is evidence that an alien craft had landed nearby, which it is not, but Valdez keeps digging, and he eventually uncovers evidence that makes it very clear this is human beings did this, right? And the specific evidence is that several cows were found to have been drugged with atropine, and a gas mask had been found at one site, right?
God damn, what's the matter with people?
I'll tell you what's the matter.
This sounds like a student film gone wrong.
Brandy, this is so much more fucked up than you're.
No.
Yeah, this is so fucking crazy. What the reason why this is happening? The likely reason. Again, this isn't. I can't tell you exactly. This is definitely what happened. But the theory Valdez and his son come up with, I think, is very credible. So Valdez starts to suspect that the government is secretly killing and studying the corpses of cattle. He found that most of the deceased animals had their tongues and lymph nodes, specifically their lymph nodes, removed, which is the organ you would take if you wanted to do tests for cancers, right?
Okay, yeah.
So there is good reason now to suspect that these mutilations were tied not to aliens, but to a secret government project called Project Gas Buggy, which had been launched in 1967 as part of the Plowshare program. Have you heard of the Plowshare program?
No, I don't know about the Plowshare program. It hasn't come up in my searches.
Man. One of my favorite things the government ever did, and by that I mean one of the funniest things. This is fucked up and horrible, but it's extremely funny, and it's also kind of soothing, because if the government did this, what I'm about to explain to you, and didn't get us all killed, I think we've got a pretty good shot of surviving the next few years.
Great. Love that. I love some hope.
We'll try to be hopeful here. So Project Plowshare was named after Isaiah 2:4 in the Bible. They will beat their swords into plowshares, right? And that means we're going to take these weapons and turn them into a tool that we use to get food, right?
Okay.
The project was established as a way for Dwight Eisenhower to feel less bad about presiding over the birth of a planet-killing arsenal. In 1953, he gave his famous Atoms for Peace speech at the UN and promised that the United States would, quote, devote its entire heart and mind to find the way by which the miraculous inventiveness of man shall not be dedicated to his death, but consecrated to his life. And sort of the less kind of shiny, beautiful thing going on here is that, like, we're making so many goddamn nukes. Like, by this point, by like the 60s, 70s, we have the 60s especially, like, we've got enough nukes to kill everything, right? And the Russians have the same number, basically, And other people are starting to get them. And, like, some of the folks doing this feel kind of bad and are like, I kind of want my life to be a little bit more than just building a death machine for the entire species. Maybe there's a way to use all of these nightmare weapons to do good shit, right?
Yeah. What wishful thinking. That's adorable.
Yeah.
I'm not responsible for this world becoming a barren wasteland someday. Absolutely not. No.
So the idea here is, let's figure out if there's a way to use nuclear explosions to speed and assist government civil works projects, right? Different construction projects. And specifically, one of the big initial things, so in 1956, there's this thing called the Suez Crisis, right? The Suez Canal. You remember when that big boat got stuck and it was very funny,
sideways.
but it also shit got like really expensive for a while because a lot of trade goes through the Suez Canal in Egypt. It's very important. Well, in 1956, the Suez Canal Company, which had been owned by Britain and France, gets nationalized by the Egyptian president, and there's like a crisis over like whether or not Europeans are going to be able to use the Suez Canal. And like this, by the way, is still a major factor in geopolitics. Like particularly liberals in the US like to act like France and whatnot is like so much less fucked up of a country. But look at the kind of weapons France sells the Egyptians. No matter who's in charge, no matter what they do to their people, no matter how violent an asshole they are, France is always willing to sell the Egyptians any kind of fucked up weapons they want because there's this canal and it's kind of a big deal, right?
Yeah.
So
56,
the Suez Canal gets shut down, and people are like, people in our government and people in, our allied governments are like, fuck, we got to figure out something. And what's the most logical thing to do if you need to replace the Suez Canal, Brandy?
Make it bigger, blow it up.
No, that's crazy talk. No, the most logical thing to do is to detonate 520 thermonuclear weapons in a line across the Holy Land through the Negev Desert to the Mediterranean Sea.
Oh, I know about this.
Just
I've
nuke
read about
the whole
this.
Holy Land. 500 nukes.
Oh, that's so fun. This is also a recent theory that's come up in the last year and a half or so. We've been hearing about. Okay, interesting. Great.
Yeah, it is. It's fascinating to think of how different everything going on there would be if, like, in addition to all of the awful stuff happening, everyone had fucking radiation poisoning because we set off 520 nuclear explosions.
Jesus, that's
probably wouldn't have gone well. That's my theory.
I would have loved
probably
to have
bad.
been in the initial pitch of this. Just somebody's like, all right, hear me out. I know this bomb can destroy anything. What if?
Yeah.
500.
PowerPoint slides.
Yeah. Let's get through it. Okay, all right. Here's what do you think?
Picture of a shovel. We all hate digging, right? What do we love? Nukes.
We just want to see what it looks like to do that. It wouldn't
gonna be
split the earth in half or anything.
I can't think of any downsides to setting off 520 nukes in the Holy Land. Seems like a good call.
What Jesus is really what he died on the cross for was this. Like,
he would have loved nukes. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's from the Book of Silas, which is a horrible book that we have never published.
Yep, that's why we hate Silas's. So the idea of repurposing this doesn't catch on. People, thank God, enough people are like, are you out of your fucking mind?
You can't do that.
So we don't do this, but the idea of repurposing nukes for civil use lingered on. And in 1957, Project Plowshare is established. And I want to quote from a write-up from the Science History Institute. Plowshare scientists looked at the natural world as if it were a piece of clay waiting to be sculpted by nuclear tools. As the father of the hydrogen bomb, Edward Teller, remarked, "If your mountain is not in the right place, drop us a card." And I do love that, like, atomic era mad scientist shit. Like,
yeah. The swagger is real.
That's kind of cool. In
Oh my gosh.
1960, Popular Mechanics devoted an article to the idea with Edward Teller. Sophie will pull up the thing on the screen here, but like it's the cover of Popular Mechanics, March 1960. There's a picture of Teller sitting at a desk with a bunch of papers. We're going to work miracles. The Atom's power is ready to unlock a treasure chest of Arctic oil, dig open an Alaskan harbor, open the spigot for Colorado's shale. And this article is by Edward Teller. I'm going to read a little bit of that opening. When you look at a map of Alaska, you will observe that Point Hope at the northwest corner projecting out into the Arctic Ocean. Above Point Hope, the shore is exposed to the polar ice pack, which even in the summer is never far offshore. Ships can travel north of this point only 1 month in 12. But below Point Hope, the shore swings to the southeast and the sea is free of ice for 3 months of the year. Nearby are coal deposits and somewhat farther, oil that might attract commerce except for one vital lack. There is no harbor, no good anchorage for seagoing ships. So they theorize a number of things, but one of them is to literally melt big chunks of the ice caps with nukes so that we can get at like coal and oil more effectively.
I like that they just did the slow version of it by just never moving away from oil.
Yeah. We it turns out we got there anyway, guys. Good news.
Don't worry. I mean, I guess better than nuking it, probably.
So Teller's got a problem, which is we know at this point radiation bad, and thankfully like hydrogen bombs less radiation, but like not no radiation. And so there's a very good question here, which is like, hey, if we detonate like a nuke underground, won't it like could that be bad? Could it like cause real problems? And so Teller has to direct the first underground test of a thermonuclear weapon to gather data for busybodies who kept asking questions like that.
So annoying.
And the initial data seems to be good. They detonate a 1.7 kiloton nuke in Nevada, and I'm using nuke interchangeably here for all atomic weapons. Obviously, a hydrogen bomb is a very different thing from like the kind of bombs we used on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. But they are mostly using like hydrogen bombs. Like that is the idea for Plowshare after a point, because it's just like a better tool. Okay. And the initial data seems to suggest that like, oh, actually like this might be pretty safe, right? That's the initial data. This ignites a spree of dangerously insane plans, like Project Gnome, which suggested nuking a massive underground salt deposit in Alaska in order to create heat and steam to run a turbine, providing power for a nearby city. And Sophie's gonna pull up like a diagram explaining this, where it's just like generator, turbine, condenser, and then molten salt from nuclear explosion.
It's for sure gonna work. Definitely.
This totally will be safe. It's not crazy at all. Like, obviously, molten salt from a nuclear explosion, there's no possible downside to creating that.
No, never.
The good news is that local indigenous leaders find out that, like, Teller's like, what if we just nuke huge chunks of, like, Inuit territory and shit to see if that does something? And they're like, this seems bad. And they're particularly concerned because Teller had just carried out an H-bomb test a couple of years earlier in the Marshall Islands that had gone bad and caused the highest recorded levels of nuclear fallout in history. They had destroyed several islands and, like, that people lived on. Like, it's a real problem. We've done episodes of It Could Happen Here on the Marshalls and how much the U.S. fucks them over, but Teller's a big part of that. So, you know, he doesn't get to nuke Alaska to the extent that he wants to nuke Alaska. And again, his high hopes are dashed by the fact that everything he suggests and does is completely out of its mind. By 1967, Plowshare had moved on to a new idea. Deposits of natural gas could be extracted if nukes were used to break up dense rock formations that kept them trapped. This is the origins, like some of the origins of hydraulic fracking, right? Initially, they want to do hydraulic fracking with nukes.
Oh my God.
Great stuff, guys. Yeah, let's do it. Yeah. Fuck it. Fuck this planet. Nuke it all.
No, it exists to be broken. It's the whole point of living.
Yeah. These guys, it's amazing. Because, like, you can get over the counter, like, just incredibly potent barbiturates at this point, and everybody's drunk and on barbiturates the whole time this is going on. And when you understand that, it really does explain a lot of the decisions being made.
No, these are not sober decisions at all. These are not.
These people are eating what is effectively Xanax like candy bars. So
Oh,
Project
my God.
Gas Buggy follows, right? That's the idea. We're going to frack with nukes. And they'd set off a bomb equivalent to 29 kilotons of TNT in northwest New Mexico near Dulce, from that article by the Science History Institute. The detonation on December 10th, 1967, blasted open an underground chamber 335 feet high and almost 165 feet in diameter and successfully fractured the rock, spurring a vast increase in gas production rates at the site. Unfortunately, the blast also contaminated the gas with radioactive tritium, making it unsellable to consumers. So does work, it just makes poison radioactive natural gas.
Love it. Where do we
Which
put
people-
that? When we make that, what do we do with that? I'm just curious. What happens?
God willing, now that RFK's gonna be in there, I think we can, I'm hopeful that we can just make that legal to use in homes, and we can all have all the radioactive tritium gas in our living rooms that we need.
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
I choose for my kids what they get.
Exactly. Maybe it's good for them, Maybe it counteracts the vaccines.
Yeah, eat your radioactive gas, kid. Come on.
Absolutely. Plowshare scientists wouldn't see real success on the fracking front until 1969, when a nuke set off under the Colorado River released $1.5 million in natural gas that was usable for the mere cost of $11 million. Also, the gas was still of very poor quality. Eventually, Plowshare was shuttered, but the radioactive tritium gas under New Mexico near Dulce remained, right? So now we've got this big fucking hole underground filled with poison.
Great. That's fun. That's just fun to know that's out there. I love a ticking time bomb.
yeah. So we've got this like death thing out in the middle of New Mexico, and we don't really know what the fuck to do with it, right? Now, what I'm going to say is not confirmed, but I consider it quite likely. Gabe Valdez eventually comes to the conclusion that the cattle mutilations around Dulce were carried out by government scientists studying the level of environmental contamination caused by the plowshare tests. If this is the case, it's something that is still somewhat under wraps, and military spooks would have put overtime work in to hide it back in the 1970s. But it makes a lot of sense. They're clearly studying animals around there to see like if they are developing cancers, and they don't want people to know about it. I think this is actually a very, very likely explanation for at least a good chunk of the cattle mutilations that are kind of found during this period of time.
God, it is worse. It is worse. You were right.
It's so much worse.
And it paid off. Yeah,
They're just like curious
you,
alien fucking not botanist, scientist or whatever. Yeah.
No, you did not disappoint. You did not disappoint. That makes total sense. I want to know which scientist was like, but make sure you get the asshole. Like,
you gotta get into that asshole.
Yeah, exactly. Is that part of the experiment, sir? I mean,
fuck it. Why not?
It's for there's a showmanship of what we're doing here.
We gotta get weird with it, people.
Yeah.
So this brings us back to Paul Benowitz, because he meets Gabe Valdez at that cattle mutilation conference, and he actually approaches Valdez, and Valdez, who is like both an active state trooper who kind of becomes like in his area, that whenever there's like weird alien shit, his colleagues are like, "Hey, Valdez, go look into this. Like you're the crazy guy, right? Go check this out."
Like, man, I just wanted to plant drugs on minorities.
Right.
Bullshit.
I think Valdez really does want to be doing this, because this kind of becomes his whole life. And he's like, as soon as this random like engineer is like, "Hey, can I like ride along with you to like look at weird alien stuff?" Valdez is like, "Absolutely, man. Come on, let's go trace down some fucking lights." And that's exactly what they do. They do a lot of ride-alongs together, and they become fast friends. Benowitz is a believer, and Valdez is an open-minded seeker, right? That's kind of the minimum of what I'd say he is.
What is their sexual tension like, and is this the exact thing that X-Files is based on?
Oh, they're fucking. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, great.
This is what Mullion... No, they're not. I have no evidence of that. But it would be funny if this is like the fucking, the Mulder and Scully origin. The sexual tension you could cut with a knife. Also, Valdez does in fact get pregnant with an alien baby. That's very much confirmed. His dad's an admiral. I think Scully's dad was an admiral. Maybe he was a captain. I know he called her Starbuck. I just watched that episode the other night.
Amazing.
So, speaking of Dana Scully, boy, she looked good in a suit. Anyway, here's some ads. Robert Evans here, and if you're anything like me, you like keeping your money where you can see it. Unfortunately, traditional big wireless carriers also like keeping your money where they can see it. If you're tired of overpaying for wireless after years and years of being stuck with their crazy high bills, bogus fees, and free perks that cost more in the long run, you should consider switching to Mint Mobile. With Mint Mobile, you can say goodbye to overpriced wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly fees, and unexpected overages. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you with premium wireless plans that start at just $15 a month. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all of your existing contacts. So, ditch overpriced wireless and get 3 months of premium wireless service from Mint Mobile for $15 a month. If you like your money, Mint Mobile is for you. Shop plans at mintmobile.com/behind. That's mintmobile.com/behind. Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month 5 gigabit plan required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customer offer for first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details.
Hi, it's Jenny Garth. We all know the importance of taking care of our physical and mental health. But what about our sexual health? I've been there, feeling totally stuck when it comes to my libido. That's why I started taking Addyi. And let me tell you, I have seen firsthand what a difference it can make in how you feel. Addyi is the only FDA-approved pill clinically proven to help certain premenopausal women have more interest in sex, have more satisfying sex, and lower the stress from low libido. Addyi has helped hundreds of thousands of women get their drive back, including me. Talk to your doctor or visit ADDYI.com to learn more about Addyi, the little pink pill. Individual results may vary.
Addyi, or flibanserin, is for premenopausal women with acquired generalized hypoactive sexual desire disorder, HSDD, who have not had problems with low sexual desire in the past, who have had low sexual desire no matter the type of sexual activity, the situation, or the sexual partner. This low sexual desire is troubling to them and is not due to a medical or mental health problem, problems in the relationship, or medicine or other drug use. Addyi is not for use in children, men, or to enhance sexual performance. Your risk of severe low blood pressure and fainting is increased if you drink 1 to 2 standard alcoholic drinks close in time to your Addyi dose. Wait at least 2 hours after drinking before taking Addyi at bedtime. This risk increases if you take certain prescriptions, OTC or herbal medications, or have liver problems, and can happen when you take Addyi without alcohol or other medicines. Do not take if you are allergic to any of Addyi's ingredients. Allergic reaction may include hives, itching, or trouble breathing. Sometimes serious sleepiness can occur. Common side effects include dizziness, nausea, tiredness, difficulty falling asleep or staying asleep, and dry mouth. See full PI and medication guide, including boxed warning, at addyi.com/PI. Addyi.
Visit ADDYI.com to learn more about Addyi.
This is Joel
And Matt.
from the How to Money podcast, and our listeners know we always talk about the golden rules for optimizing finances or tips for paying off debt. And with Intuit, you have access to money tools to manage, make, and save more money no matter where you are in your financial journey.
That's right. Intuit connects you effortlessly to the money you deserve, whether you are an entrepreneur just trying to grow and market your business with Intuit QuickBooks and MailChimp, or if you're trying to optimize your personal finances with Intuit TurboTax and Credit Karma. Intuit, your way to money.
This is Dr. Joy from Therapy for Black Girls, introducing the new daytime drama Beyond the Gates. Welcome to Fairmont Crest Estates, a wealthy suburban community outside Washington, D.C., where you'll find the esteemed and glamorous Dupree family, the very definition of Black royalty. The Duprees rule the neighborhood and social scene with poise and sophistication. That is, until a cheating husband and his trophy wife start stirring up trouble. Now their power and standing are threatened, and their secrets may come to light. All the while, those on the outside are watching closely, waiting for their empire to crumble. Find out what happens beyond these majestic gates and behind closed doors, where scandal, romance, betrayal, passion, and revenge await. These pristine walls hide torrid affairs and guilty consciences. A web of juicy stories ready to be revealed. CBS Daytime is about to get soapier. Starring Tamara Tooney, Clifton Davis, Daphne Duplay, and Carla Mosley. The new daytime drama Beyond the Gates on CBS weekdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, and streaming on Paramount+.
We're back. Everyone in that show looked good. And this fucking Skinner, oh my god, like he was poured into that uniform. Or
Looked amazing.
That suit. Yeah,
no one talks about the fashion on the X-Files.
Oh, yeah. Those real pencil ties, fucking Mulder. Oh my God. Beautiful stuff. Beautiful stuff. So, in the winter of 1979, Benowitz and his wife experienced, well, not a close encounter, but like an intermediate distance encounter at his Albuquerque home. So his house is like right up to the edge of the Kirtland base, right? So he can see like the base itself, and there's this mountain that they had like hollowed out and filled with nukes. Like he's looking at all of that from his fucking porch, right? And he and his wife start to notice at night blinking lights that are floating and moving independently in the air over the base. And he is, as a pilot, he's like, this does not look like any kind of aircraft I've ever seen. And in fact, it is not. Now, again, not aliens. This is like drone projects, and what becomes the stealth bomber is like, this is all the kind of shit they're testing out at Kirtland. He is seeing things, and he is seeing things that he does not have any kind of good explanation for, right? Because some of the things he's seeing are experimental craft that are capable of things that the broader populace did not know we could do with aerial craft at this point in time. Now, because he's rich and because he is a professional engineer, he has a lot of equipment. He's got telephoto lenses, he's got a Super 8 camera, and he's got a lot of like different advanced antenna that are capable of taking data on the stuff that he's seeing, particularly the signals that these different craft are putting out, right? Because they're all putting out radio signals. They've got transponders and shit, right? You want that on there, especially with an experimental craft. You never know if one of those is going to like wind up crashing into the ground. You want to be able to like grab it and shit. So he starts training this whole, not just his cameras, but all of these different all these different electronic tools he has on the base while this is happening, and he's getting real data on something that is actually happening, right? Now, the thing is, and there's an interesting documentary about this called Mirage Men, and it'll point out that Benowitz is a World War II era veteran. He is a genuinely patriotic, helpful guy, and a lot of kind of early UFO dudes are like this. So his instinct is not, the government is hiding something fucked up from me. His instinct is, I wonder if the government knows something clearly alien or otherworldly is happening above this base, above this very secure institution. I need to tell them what I found, right? He is deeply patriotic, and this country is going to fuck him so hard, like it does everyone who's deeply patriotic.
Oh no, babe! They're the bad guy. Don't do that.
Oh, Paul!
God. It's like
Paul.
watching somebody walk upstairs in a horror movie.
Well, and Dodie, who's like going to be fucking with him for years over this, is like, World War II era veterans. You just tell them, hey, we need you to like help us with this, but you can't talk. You got to keep it quiet. This is national security. Of course, of course. I trust the government, right? Like I'm a child of the New Deal. I fought for this country against the Nazis. You know,
we are the heroes. Absolutely,
right. Yeah. And that's where Paul's head is, right? In addition to literally believing in a lot of kooky alien. The government doesn't start that in him, right? He is down that road to an extent.
Yeah.
So the reality of the situation is that he and his wife had documented evidence of some kind of experimental plane, drone, or other electronic gizmo. There were a number of different things at because part of like this whole Kirtland base is like one of the things that's kind of in this whole area is Sandia National Laboratories, which at the time is the #1 weapons development facility in the United States, at least probably on the planet as a result of that. And like one of the things they're working on is early laser guided missiles, in addition to other different kinds of projects. One possibility for some of what Paul saw is there's this massive, it's actually the largest freestanding wooden structure on Earth. Like even all of the bolts are wood. It's this massive tower that they were setting off like EMP blasts in order to test the resilience of planes to nuclear explosions. So because of that, you couldn't have any metal in the actual like thing itself. I don't understand the science, but that's just what people say. And that's apparent. This was a thing that we did. And apparently it wasn't very effective because we weren't like the simulated blasts were not anywhere close to what a nuke would have done. But this is a thing that they were working on. There were lights on this thing. It looked weird, and it gives off, you're getting some weird fucking signals from this if you've got like different antennas and stuff, in addition to the other shit that they're fucking around with there.
Nice.
So I think somebody who was less inclined towards belief in, aliens and the paranormal than Paul might have been like, yeah, there's probably some sort of weird Cold War weapon system being developed there or whatever. Paul does not make that leap. He captures grainy footage of lights with his 8mm camera, and he uses his engineering knowledge to design and construct a tracking antenna array on his roof. Adam Gorightly notes, quote, Benowitz installed an arsenal of tracking antenna on his roof to record signals apparently emanating from these UFOs, which he claimed could DF direction find at distances of up to 60 miles. Alarmed that these craft posed a national security threat, Benowitz alerted Kirtland Base officials of his findings. Not long after, Benowitz received what he believed were alien transmissions. Now, the reality of the situation, and again, this is not entirely clear, but what's very likely happening is that, being a good engineer, Paul has built an array that is actually receiving encrypted transmissions because the Air Force is experimenting with classified broadcast technology to send out coded messages, and Paul is picking this shit up, right? Some of it's probably interference from the EMP setup, but he's actually almost certainly getting some actual encrypted stuff, right? So he goes to the Air Force and he's like, hey man, I've been like listening and taking footage, and there's like aliens, and they're like, yeah, okay, another alien guy. And then he's like, and I pointed my incredibly advanced antenna array at your base of secret military bullshit, and look at these coded transmissions, and they're like, oh fuck. This guy might actually have something that could be a problem. We really don't want him doing this. Fuck.
Yeah, please don't. No.
Oh shit. Oh fuck. So the head of base security spends about a minute on the phone with Paul and decides he's probably a crank, but his status as the president of this legitimate lab, and the fact that he's getting something, and this is potentially a risk to, you know, this could expose some of the projects they're working on, right? And maybe Paul wouldn't even, if Paul just publishes this stuff being like, look, this is evidence of aliens and it's actual encrypted transmissions, well, Paul is going to publish that somewhere. It wouldn't be hard at all for some sort of like Russian agent to get that. And then maybe the Soviets crack this thing and like, right, there's a number of ways this could be a problem, right?
Yeah, they could decide to dig a ditch with a nuke. So
Right. Well, in fact, they do. I didn't bring this up, but the Soviets have their own plowshare program that also causes massively poisons the planet. Everybody's doing it.
In Soviet Russia, do you cut out the bears' assholes? Is that what's happening in their fields instead?
You just poison the largest freshwater body or one of the largest freshwater bodies on the planet, and then we're good.
Great.
Everything's fine. So yeah, and it's also, maybe it's not the transmissions that freak him out. Maybe it's that he's getting documentation about some of the craft. You know, we don't know exactly what it is, but like the Air Force doesn't just say, okay, you know, tell this guy we're making a note of it. They're like, we should keep talking to this dude. We need to get one of our guys, an agent from the Air Force Office of Special Investigations, to befriend Paul Benowitz and see what he knows. And so the head of base security, Colonel Ernest Edwards, picks an Air Force Office of Special Investigations agent named Richard Doty to do just that. And we will be talking about Doty and what happens next to our friend Paul in part 2.
Ooh, cliffhanger.
That's it. Anything you want to plug, Brandy?
Yeah, thank you. This was awesome. I'm excited to hear part 2. For the listener, you guys can find me on every social media app at this point at Brandazzle. I got the Blue Sky, I got the Threads, I got the X, still formerly known as Twitter. I've got Red Note. I'm on there now. Who cares? Whatever. TikTok, it's deleted from my phone, but my account exists. Instagram, Facebook, wherever. Brandazzle, brandyposey.com is my website for a bunch of stuff. I have an album coming out in March that I actually recorded in Portland last year. And Burn This Records on Instagram, and Lady to Ladies, my podcast.
Excellent.
Thanks, guys.
Excellent. All right, everybody. Well, until next time, you know, go force your way into an Air Force base and just start taking photos, you know?
Or
what's the worst that could happen?
Or don't.
Naruto run right on in.
Yeah, Naruto run right into Area 51. They love it when people do that. It's a lot of fun for them.
Behind the Bastards is a production of Cool Zone Media. For more from Cool Zone Media, visit our website, coolzonemedia.com, or check us out on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Behind the Bastards is now available on YouTube. New episodes every Wednesday and Friday. Subscribe to our channel, youtube.com/@BehindTheBastards.
When it comes to playtime, never let your squad down. Unlock elite gaming tech at Lenovo.com. Push your gameplay beyond performance with 13th Gen Intel Core processors. Upgrade to smooth, high-quality streaming with Intel Wi-Fi 6E. And maximize game performance with enhanced overclocking. Win the tech search and head to Lenovo.com.
Lenovo.
Cool Zone Media.
Oh, man, welcome back to Behind the Bastards, all of you beautiful people, and also all of you ugly people, you know? All people are beautiful, except for I just kind of said that they're not. That was
There's
mean of me.
inside and outside beauty, you know?
No, there's only one kind. There's only one kind. I'm not going to say what it is. I'm not going to say which kind of beauty, but there's only one kind.
That's
fair. Yeah, it's elbows.
Elbow guy.
I'm an elbow guy. I'm an elbow guy. Yeah, I'm starting the wiki feed of elbows. It's just a bunch of like really blurry cropped photos of like elbows of different celebrities. Oh my God.
Do you know there's no nerve endings in your elbow skin?
That's the hottest thing about it.
Yeah,
to me,
I know.
as an elbow guy.
I had a friend in my comparative religions class that discovered weed and would make everybody bite his elbows at the beginning of every class. And
that's a pervert. That's a pervert.
Oh,
that's an elbow pervert right there.
Yes, currently he's a born again meteorologist in North Carolina. So that is a pervert.
No, I can see why
pervert.
you'd be scared that God is angry at you if you're that kind of pervert, because he is. But that makes it hotter for a lot of us. Brandy Posey, welcome back to the program. You want to plug anything at the top before we get too deep into elbows?
Yeah, of course. Before we get elbow deep into
That's right.
into
That's
aliens.
Right. Bowen with Robert and Brandy.
Getting it down, baby. I run a comedy record label. It's called Burn This Records. We seek to create like equity between our artists in a way that most comedy labels don't. I have put out 17 albums last year. Was our first year. This year we have about 15. It's digital only, and everybody is
that's a
not
lot of
only
albums.
funny but a good person, which is a Venn diagram that I wish more people in comedy paid attention to.
Yes. Well, I think that's awesome. So check that out, everybody. And let's get. Are you ready to get back into this story, into these aliens, and spooks?
Bow deep in aliens. Let's go.
Yeah. Speaking of bows, Richard Doty probably doesn't have nice elbows. He's our Air Force Office of Special Investigations.
When you said
agent.
bows, I was like, are we talking for your hair? Are we talking?
Nope.
Are we talking speakers? Are we talking?
Natty bow.
There's so many bows. Does he have no bows? No partners. What are we talking about?
Yeah. You know what? Speaking of bows, I will let people. This just yesterday. I wound up just because of it happened as I was driving, like responding to a 3-car crash. And there was a young woman in the middle car who was the only one who was hurt, and she was hurt because she had a beret in like the back of her hair.
That's not what it's got. For
a claw.
It was the claw-shaped one.
Yes, which is a no-go.
Anyway, don't wear those in the car.
Don't wear those in a car.
Yeah.
Do your hair. You can bring your claw
but
clip in the car, but do not wear it while you're in the car because it's bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I have a friend that is her sister's an ER nurse, and when she gets in her car, her whole back seat is full of those claws. Because when she gets in her car and she throws it, she just takes it out and throws it in the back seat. Because the number one thing that she sees in her ER room is that in women's skulls from car accidents. So
thankfully, this lady seemed fine.
I do like you saying barrette the way you said it.
Barrette?
You said it so surgical.
I thought that's what it was called.
You're not wrong, but you're also wrong.
Anyway, don't wear those. And also, if you're ever in a car accident and your head is hurt in any way, shape, or form, go get checked out by a professional. Don't just assume it's okay. You don't want to wind up like that famous guy's wife.
No, you got one brain,
I wasn't
man.
saying that to be flippant. It's a real problem.
Yes.
Go to the doctor.
This is Joel
and Matt
from the How to Money podcast, and our listeners know we always talk about the golden rules for optimizing finances or tips for paying off debt. And with Intuit, you have access to money tools to manage, make, and save more money no matter where you are in your financial journey.
That's right. Intuit connects you effortlessly to the money you deserve, whether you are an entrepreneur just trying to grow and market your business with Intuit QuickBooks and MailChimp, or if you're trying to optimize your personal finances with Intuit TurboTax and Credit Karma. Intuit, your way to money.
This is Dr. Joy from Therapy for Black Girls, introducing the new daytime drama Beyond the Gates. Welcome to the Fairmont Crest Estates, where the wealthy and glamorous Dupree family rules the community with poise and sophistication. That is, until a cheating husband and his trophy wife start stirring up trouble. Find out what happens beyond these majestic gates and behind closed doors, where scandal, romance, betrayal, passion, secrets, and revenge await. CBS Daytime is about to get soapier. The new daytime drama Beyond the Gates on CBS weekdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, and streaming on Paramount+.
Most home fire and carbon monoxide fatalities are preventable with the right safety products, including smoke and carbon monoxide alarms that can alert you when a hazard has been detected. Teach kids that when they hear beeps that last, they need to get out fast. Join Kidda in highlighting the importance of fire and carbon monoxide safety preparedness in homes across the country, so our families, and especially our children, can always feel safe. To learn more, get involved, and help us spread the word about the importance of fire and carbon monoxide readiness. Visit causeforalarm.org.
Looking for a mortgage, credit card, or auto loan? Then you should know your FICO score. Did you know 90% of top lenders use FICO scores? Visit myfico.com/free today to get your FICO score for free. MyFICO makes it easy to understand your credit with FICO scores, credit reports, and alerts. Visit myfico.com/free. That's myfico.com/free. Or download the MyFICO app and discover the score lenders use most. That's myfico.com/free.
So let's talk about fucking UFOs and a guy who didn't go to the doctor maybe enough, or maybe went too much. I don't know. Richard Doty was born sometime around the immediate post-war period. He is, I haven't actually run into his exact, that said, I didn't go super hardcore digging into it. His father and his uncle Edward were his chief influences growing up, and both were military men. This guy is kind of, an early, I think like mid-boomer or something like that. And his uncle Edward had been a career officer and meteorologist. In 1947, he'd been made chief of an Air Force weather research station working on something called the Atmospheric Divergence Project. Now, decades later, because Richard Doty is not just the guy who's going to spread a bunch of lies to Paul Benowitz that helps drive him mad, he also becomes an alien influencer, claiming that oh no, I actually did also see real aliens, guys, and you can totally trust me. I know that my whole thing is I lied to a guy about aliens for years, but also you can trust me when I tell you about aliens that I saw.
Yeah. I lied because I also tell the truth. That's how it works.
Exactly. Now that I'm out, you can trust me. So Richard Doty, the spook and liar kind of guy, has in kind of modern interviews tells viewers that the Atmospheric Divergence Project his uncle worked on was an attempt to, quote, change or neutralize gravity around a rocket to aid in space travel. Now, I haven't found the exact details on the specific project his uncle worked on, but I don't think this is true. Because while I did not find the reports on that project, I did spend way too much of my research time reading through an Air Force handbook on meteorological techniques, and atmospheric divergence impacts the growth of storm systems in a bunch of ways that are obviously relevant to an Air Force meteorologist and not at all involved with fucking up gravity for space travel, right? This sounds like a normal meteorologist thing to do. Richard is a tall tale spinner, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and one of the issues with my sources, because I've got a bunch of articles in here that you can find, but there's also two books that I read for this. One is Saucered Spooks and Kooks by Adam Gorightly, and one is Project Beta by Greg Bishop. Both of them are very entertaining. I think Greg's book, Project Beta, is the better book. Both of these guys also believe in stuff I don't, but particularly Bishop. Well, I think because I've caught, there's some stuff in Gorightly's book that I caught that's just not factually, just slips that he slipped up on. I think Bishop is more familiar with the subculture, but also Bishop definitely believes a bunch of shit I don't, and he's you can tell he kind of is excited at like talking with these spooks and spies, and I think he gives them a lot more credit than he ought to.
Got it. He's caught up in the romance of it all.
I think he is, not in a way that I think makes his basic conclusions wrong or his book not worth reading. Again, I think it's actually quite worth reading. It's quite a good book, and I think he's a good writer. I'm not simpatico with him on all of the conclusions he comes to about these guys. I don't mean that as an insult to the man. Because again, I liked his book a lot. But that is an issue when it comes to like trying to figure out shit here, right? And in Project Beta, Bishop does do about like the best of any of them at kind of questioning Doty by saying, perhaps this had something to do with weather control, or maybe it was something more prosaic. And like, it wasn't weather control or gravity. It's just studying how this thing that affects meteorological forecasts work. Very normal thing for a meteorologist to do. Anyway, Doty joined the Air Force as a young man, just like his pa and uncle, and per Bishop, he entered in 1968 as a combat security policeman. Doty would later claim he was, quote, tested and tracked throughout his career to become a base security guard and then a special agent for AFOC, the Air Force Office of Special Investigations. Now, that's how Doty tells the story. And I think that's very silly because I'm not an expert on this, but I've known a number of people who were in different military intelligence roles. And I will tell you one thing that is very consistent. Base security guard is not a job that you are scouted for your entire career, right? No. Like, it's kind of a shit gig. Actually, like nobody likes base security, and it's not really what most kids join wanting to do with their lives, right?
No, it's like a step above base janitor, but like also the same kind of. Yeah, and not to besmirch either job necessarily, but also like you're not.
I'll besmirch
passing
it a little.
Yeah.
I'll smirch it some. I'm smirching a little here.
I'll let you just a scooch of smirch. We'll take it.
Yeah. And Doty really wants people to believe that he was scouted by the Air Force because like we need a guy we can trust to do security for our very secret, very real alien projects. And like, wow, we noted from the beginning of his time in the Air Force that he had something special, right? And that's the way he talks about his background.
This is very observe and report, but with aliens. It feels like.
Yes. And you know, AFOC is more prestigious than base security. He eventually does. You know, he's a special agent. He's a sergeant, but he's also a special agent for this, and that is like a more prestigious role. But also, his job within AFOC isn't the most prestigious thing because other members of that agency are literally. This is like. The time that he's in is one of like the high points for like spy shit anywhere in the world, like history, right? Other guys in AFOC are locked in life and death spy battles with like fucking got some of the best spies on planet Earth, right? You know, you've got the foreign, you know, Russian and Chinese agents. Like there's some really interesting shit going on here. Doty's job during this like great international game is to lie to people who believe they'd been molested by Martians. So he doesn't have the sexiest job within this sort of field, right?
Not quite espionage with a capital
E.
Right.
He's not James Bond, you know? There are some guys in AFOC doing some really, like, you can talk about the ethics of it, but like interesting spy shit. I mean, it is interesting, but not in the same way.
I'd like to see his Bond movie, though. I would like to see.
Yes.
Yeah, this low rent Bond is definitely a movie that I'd be into.
Well, that's kind of the premise of the Slow Horses TV show, right? Which does have, what's his name? Commissioner Gordon's in it, and he's great. I think the show, I have mixed opinions on it, but he's always a charm. The original not the original, the one from the Nolan movies. I forget his name. Gary Oldman. So Doty today claims that right after basic training, and again, this is also bullshit, he was taken to a room and shown footage of UFOs. And like, I don't believe that if there are aliens that the government has evidence of, obviously there's some people that they let into that secret within military intelligence. It's not going to be anyone who just finished basic, because you know who can finish basic training? Almost anyone. Like that's part of the point.
Hey, 18-year-old without a frontal lobe that is fully formed. You want to see aliens right now?
Yeah.
Like, unless I wanted to fuck with you specifically, maybe, but like not in an official constructive capacity for sure.
Yeah. Hey, guy whose primary hobby is getting blackout drunk every single night of the week. Let's show you an alien video.
yeah, exactly. You know all those push-ups you did? Guess what?
Yeah.
Here's also aliens. You passed the test.
Yeah. Now, this is generally described as a test, and I think that's how like Bishop describes it in his book, is that Doty was being tested to see or at least Doty claims he was being tested to see, if he could be trusted with more detailed info about extraterrestrials. So I guess there's a possibility that maybe something like this did happen, and it wasn't real aliens, but it was just like, let's show a bunch of guys alien footage and like see who leaks it, right? That they saw something, see who we can trust. Stuff like, I don't think even then, I kind of doubt it because they weren't really doing that to guys who just finished basic. But shit like that is happening within different kind of intelligence agencies. And it's not just aliens. They lie about, disinfo is given out to people during this period of time in different intel roles just to see if they can be trusted, right? Like that's a thing that happens. Doty also claims that he served as a guard at Area 51 where he saw a UFO. Now, again, Area 51 is a real base. They are really doing experimental shit with planes there. This could be true. And in fact, the story he tells might be true, but not in a way he wants you to think. Because he claims while he's there, he sees them wheeling out this huge black disc that's some sort of craft that they're trying to get into the atmosphere, that they like launch. And it doesn't look like anything he's ever seen. And his commanding officer takes him aside, right? Because he sees Doty's fascinated in this. And here's the conversation that is related in the book Project Beta. Airman Doty, do you know what that craft was? Asked the officer. No, sir. That's what is generally known as a UFO, and it's not one of ours. It's on loan. Yes, sir. Someday, if you play your cards right, you will know a lot more. But for now, you are to tell no one about this, and you are not to discuss it with anyone. Is that clear? Doty never talked about it again. And first off, obviously he did. Because you're telling us the story. So, like...
From reading it in a book, it's definitely been recounted several times.
Yeah. But also, that could be basically true and have nothing to do with aliens. He could have been on guard duty, seen a weird craft that maybe like was a fucking French or Canadian thing that like we were doing tests on, right? So it's on loan. And his boss is just kind of like, hey, maybe if you play your cards right, we'll trust you with more stuff, right? And I don't know. I don't know if Doty actually gets much more trust, but this could be largely accurate, although I don't think that's likely.
Yeah.
That said, like, there's evidence he definitely does see experimental craft through his job for FOC later in his career, because he's working at bases where they're doing that. That doesn't mean that he's told what it all is, because they silo that info. Even if it's your job to stop people from finding out about these programs, you may not be told much about them because it's a need-to-know thing and you don't. Right? You need to stop people from filming the weird craft. You don't need to know how it works. You don't need to know what it is, right? Like,
no. They don't want curious people working on like lower levels of this stuff at all.
No,
like they're not.
No.
They want you to just come in and be like, my job is to do this, and then have blinders up to everything else.
I didn't see shit. This is why I've been saying this for years. The government should have all of its security done by street-level drug dealers. Those guys can keep their fucking mouths shut.
Absolutely. Ain't no snitches.
Exactly. Area 51, all security provided by coke dealers. Just don't give them any coke. Then they talk about everything.
Exactly.
You got to keep them sober, otherwise it ends very badly.
Ooh, man, what a fun place. Just a bunch of sober coke dealers.
Yeah, a bunch of sober coke dealers at Area 51. This is going to end well. So there's evidence that a lot of, Doty is a credulous guy. He does come to, at least he will claim to believe in this. He might just be fucking with everybody. I don't really know. But a lot of guys in his kind of level in different intel agencies are believers themselves, right?
Okay.
So at any rate, Doty claims that his chief mentor in spy shit was a guy named Seeley Howard, a former insurance salesman. According to Doty, he gave him this sage advice early in his spook career. There are 3 sorts of people you will be dealing with. The first are the ones who will believe anything you say. The second are those who will, at least at first, refuse to believe you. The last is the group who won't believe you at first, but might be willing to be convinced. And what I find interesting about that is those last 2 groups are the same group of people.
Yes.
The people who don't believe you at first, but you can make them believe you. I don't see the difference. Yeah.
No, it's just one is just on a longer timeline, and eventually,
maybe,
yeah, sure.
So as soon as Paul Benowitz called the Air Force with results of his surveillance, they knew they might have a problem. The Air Force Office of Special Investigations very quickly became concerned that Paul Benowitz had stumbled onto a secret laser-based tracking system located in Kirtland. At least that's one of the things he might have stumbled on. Greg Bishop, who wrote Project Beta, noted that these transmissions sounded like gibberish language that had been distorted and sped up. Or to a true believer like Paul, they sounded like alien speech. Edwards, chief of Kirtland-based security, had previously described Doty to a friend at the NSA as his drug man. And so that's less cool than it sounds, as Greg Bishop writes. The duty simply involved checking for allegations of illegal drug use on the base, but it was only one of Agent Doty's minor assignments. The FOC has jurisdiction over all criminal and security investigations at Air Force facilities. Most FOC agents must carry a high security clearance. Agents need to know what they are protecting so that security threats can be recognized quickly. Benowitz carefully described to Doty what he had seen and recorded, all while trying to keep what he really thought was going on to himself for the moment. And this is where I think Bishop is too credulous, because, again, think back to Roswell. The first guy, like, they don't tell the people who are looking and responding to that crashed balloon that Project Mogul exists. It's very common for these guys not to be in the loop about stuff, right?
Exactly.
Especially since he's just a sergeant, you know? Like, he's not a super high-level guy here. That said, Doty is kind of sent to talk to Benowitz, and he's like, hey, why don't you come to the base and we can talk about your research? And so Paul heads to the base and he shows Doty what he's got. And Doty is initially kind of, bored. And then he perks up when Paul starts to show him his radio array. He returns to the base to talk with some NSA colleagues about bringing an expert out to Paul's home to see what he'd built. So he visits Paul at his house, and this time with an actual, scientist in tow, and another engineer, a guy named Lou Miles. And the fact that Paul has now been invited to the base to talk. He's had, a guy come over to his house from Air Force Intelligence. Paul is takes this as evidence that I'm on the right track and the Air Force supports me. I'm now kind of helping the Air Force find evidence that there's aliens, I kind of got my X-Files job because they think I'm so cool and smart.
Oh, buddy.
I know. It's really sick because he's just trying to help,
Yeah, no, he is just trying to help.
He just wants to keep his country safe.
Oh, they're sizing you up, buddy, to see what kind of a threat you are.
Oh, no, my man. No, not at all. So the expert Doty brings to Paul's home is Lou Miles. Like Valdez, that state trooper, Miles was a guy who wanted to believe. He had been involved to an extent with Project Blue Book, which was like a multi-year Air Force investigation into UFOs. It's one of the big seminal moments in early UFO history, right?
Yeah.
He was also now the chief scientist for Kirtland's test center, so he knew the reality behind a lot of the strange aerial phenomena that guys like Paul credited to aliens. So he's both open to believing, but also but I know what you're actually seeing, and it's not aliens. It's this thing that we're working on. Nevertheless, he was good at talking to Benowitz, while Doty hung back and took photos with a hidden camera for the NSA. Who was also involved in this? It's kind of murky exactly where FOC begins and the NSA ends, and there's some evidence the CIA also gets involved. There's a lot of people are kind of interested in what Paul is doing. But no one's interested in Paul's evidence of alien interference. They're, again, worried about, interested as to whether or not he's actually, gotten any encrypted shit, and they also think he might be useful, because being an actually brilliant engineer working in the aerospace industry and someone who goes to these UFO conventions, he's kind of trusted within the UFO community. So if they want to get a lot of people to, pay attention to something other than the real shady shit they're doing at Kirtland, he might be able to convince them, right? He might be able to distract attention away from the real shit that's being done that they want to hide. For the next year, Paul waits for updates from the military, and he continues his special interest exploring extraterrestrial phenomena. In May of the next year, 1980, a 26-year-old woman named Myrna Hansen called the state police to claim that she and her 6-year-old had been accosted by alien visitors near Eagle Nest, New Mexico. The state troopers basically shrugged and handed the case over to the only cop they knew who dealt with this sort of shit, Gabe Valdez.
Yep.
If I'm remembering correctly, I believe Valdez's attitude is that Myrna was probably a plant. That's not clear to me. Again, a lot of sketchy shit's going on here.
Immediately doesn't trust the woman. Okay, kid.
Yeah. Well, but also, this kind of shit was going on, so I don't know.
No, it also, he's like, oh, man, this 6-year-old fucking with me.
Right. So
Yeah.
Gabe calls our boy Paul, and they go off to meet Myrna. Now, by the start of the 80s, the science of hypnotic regression, which is not really a science, had taken off among people who believed or wanted to believe that they had been abducted by aliens, right?
So let me turn you into a chicken first, and then tell me if you saw the aliens or not. Yeah,
right.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm going to hypnotize you and then walk you, like, say a bunch of leading things that get you to tell a fun alien story, right?
Yeah.
You know, a lot of this stuff is some similar shit's happening with, like, the satanic panic. We're just into the idea. I mean, there's a lot of this in the X-Files, right? This idea that people have memories locked away, that this psychologist or psychiatrist who definitely doesn't ever wind up fucking his patients can unlock. It's
People
super
aren't like
cool.
People aren't susceptible to being influenced to say things to please somebody either.
Yes,
That's
nothing
for sure
sketchy
not a
here
problem.
whatsoever.
Definitely not.
Yeah. Speaking of things that aren't sketchy, the sponsors of this podcast.